The air inside the digital coliseum wasn't just hot. It was heavy, thick with the metallic scent of despair. Tai no longer saw Agumon as a partner, but as a weapon that needed to be fired at any cost. With every shouted command, every demand for more power, the crest on his chest didn't glow with the light of courage. Instead, it pulsed with an erratic, shadowy frequency. It was the sound of a rope about to snap. What the young leader failed to understand, while pushing his friend's biological limits, is that the digital world does not forgive arrogance. Evolution isn't a power switch, it's a reflection of the soul, and Tai's soul, at that moment, was hungry, blind, and dangerously impatient. The silence that followed the final command was deafening. In the center of the arena, Agumon's body began to contort unnaturally. This wasn't the clean geometry of a sacred Digivolution. It was a visceral, almost mechanical process, as if bones were being shattered and rebuilt by an invisible, furious force. Out of a mist of dark data, a skeletal and gargantuan silhouette emerged, tearing the sky apart with a roar that sounded nothing like digital. It was the sound of pure emptiness. SkullGreymon stood tall, a mountain of cold, white bones, driven by a destructive instinct that no longer recognized friendship. Tai realized, too late, that the power he so desperately sought had no leash. The monster was now the master, and the price of that lesson would be written with the wreckage of everything they were trying to protect. SkullGreymon's first action wasn't a strategic strike. It was a spasm of blind fury. The Colosseum trembled as he launched the organic projectile from his back, not toward the enemy, but against the very structure surrounding them. Dust billowed, and through the haze, the creature's hollow eyes sought only one thing: the end of everything that moved. Tai tried to shout, tried to give an order, but his voice died in his throat as he realized the monster before him had no ears for reason. The bond that once united them was silent, replaced by a static hiss of corrupted data. Greymon, the Guardian, had died to make way for a war machine built of trauma and bone. The other Digidestined watched in shock as their own partners recoiled out of pure survival instinct. "He's going to destroy us," Sora whispered, and she wasn't wrong. SkullGreymon advanced heavily, each step cracking the digital ground, crushing the logic that evolution was always a step forward. It was, in fact, a regression to the most primitive and violent state of existence. The battle that was meant to be a test of strength turned into a one-sided massacre, where the hero was the greatest threat. Tai's despair was no longer about winning the fight, but about finding a way to put out the fire he had started before it consumed what was left of his childhood. When SkullGreymon's energy finally faded, there was no burst of light or triumphant return. What remained on the cold floor of the Colosseum was an exhausted Agumon, trembling with a hollow gaze, as if he had returned from a place where light couldn't reach. The silence that settled among the Digidestined was unlike any other. It wasn't the silence of rest, but of disappointment. Tai approached, but his steps were heavy. He looked at his own hands, the same hands that held the Crest of Courage, and realized that courage without wisdom is merely cruelty disguised as purpose. That day changed the lineage of evolution forever. The innocence of the journey had been murdered by haste. The group departed without many words, but the shadow of the skeletal giant seemed to walk beside them. SkullGreymon wasn't just a wrong transformation. It was a scar on the code of the digital world and on the psyche of every child present. They learned that the digital world is a mirror. If you project fear and tyranny, the mirror reflects a monster back at you. For the viewer, the lesson remained that even heroes can become villains if they forget what they swore to protect. The journey would continue, but now with a new weight on Tai's shoulders. The leader understood that sometimes the ultimate test of courage isn't forcing growth, but having the patience to wait for the right light to shine.